The clock is ticking for a final decision to be taken by the government on exactly what to do with the CBSE Class 12 board examinations. In that context, today, close to 300 children wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of India asking for him to take suo motu cognizance of the entire issue and to provide an alternative mechanism to decide the marking and the results for those students who were to give their Class 12 board exams this time around. Now remember, all of this is happening even as a consultative process between the centre, the Education Ministry and the various states is currently underway. All of them, all the different states have been told to come back with their suggestions about how the marking should be decided and if, and here is what had been mooted by several states and the majority consensus seemed to be in this direction, as we had broken earlier this weekend, that there should be a shorter term examination. Perhaps it could be done online, perhaps it could be done in classrooms, but proper social distancing measures would also be put in place and only certain subjects would be tested. Are all the states on board with that? Not quite. Because at least 3 states have now stood out and said that till the time children are all vaccinated, they cannot be exposed to crowds.
CBSE बोर्ड हो चाहे माध्यमिक शिक्षा बोर्ड हो, उसके बच्चों की एग्जाम्स है, वो अभी हाल फिलहाल हम कराने की स्थिति में नहीं है, लेकिन आगे के लिए हम प्लान बना रहे हैं कि कैसे ये कोविड कम हो तो हमारे बच्चों की हम लोग एग्जाम भी कराएं।
जिस प्रकार का निर्देश केंद्र देगा उसका पूरी तरीके से पालन करेंगे और हमारा तो ये था कि केवल एक बात है कि जो बच्चा जहाँ भी शिक्षा ग्रहण करेगा वहीं पर उसका एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर बना, तो उसको दूरी भी कम तय करनी पड़ेगी और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग भी बनी रहेगी।
कुछ दिनों बाद जिस तरीके से स्थितियां नियंत्रण में आती दिख रही है, महीने 1.5 महीने बाद एक टेंटेटिव डेट जरूर घोषित कर देनी चाहिए।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
All right, joining us on the Newshour Agenda, Dr. Sudha Acharya, Principal at ITL Public School and Secretary of the National Progressive School Conference, Rupali Kudesia, Principal at DPS Sushant Lok, Dr. Jaleel Parker, Senior Pulmonary Consultant at Lilavati Hospital, and Resham Talwar, Class 12 student. Resham, I want to start with you because ultimately we'll all debate and go home, but you'll be the one whose future is on the line. What do you want and why?
Considering us a stakeholder in this process, because
please
I
unmute
think
yourself.
That ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, it's fine now, Resham. Go on.
Right. So, ma'am, I was just saying that thank you for firstly considering us as a part of this process, as a stakeholder in this process, because that is exactly what is lacking right now. There are people who are sitting out there in the ministry on Zoom calls and they are deciding whether we should go out there in this season of between the overlap of the second and third wave of corona with at least 3 kind of different funguses also there. So thank you for considering that students are a very essential part of this process. Now coming from the opinion of the students, all the students, literally every single student cannot even imagine to sit for the board examination now or later in the future. Firstly, because there are different kinds of students. Some of us are preparing for the DU, some of us for the entrance exams, some of us are going to apply abroad. And for all of them, the decision of the board actually occurring will harm their future. It will harm their future in the greatest way possible, not just in terms of their physical and mental health, but also in terms of their academic journey, in terms of their employment journey. In case the boards actually decide that, they need to conduct this exam, I am sure that the repercussions of it will never be forgotten by the world, and India will be remembered in the dark history of, till ages. So, some of the primary concerns that I would like to, shed light onto, yes, ma'am. Some of the primary concerns that I would like to shed light onto is firstly how so many students are dealing with grief right now. They are dealing with grief of their parents, that of their families. You cannot imagine them to sit for a board examination right now. Secondly, if at all there is this decision of students going in and sitting for the board examination, these students themselves will become a part of the wave. You will see them appearing for the board exam from ICUs and from those kind of critical centers. And I would once again like to remind every single person watching this channel right now that we do not have the resources to afford so many lakhs of students and their healthcare right now. We will never be able to compensate to their parents or their
So
families.
Resham, tell me this, what is your solution? Do you think there should be no exams? Then how will you be evaluated? On the basis of your 10th marks or your pre-boards?
Right. So I would like to bring this to your light again, that there are many students who have sent several proposals. One of which I personally love is this 11-page proposal. It is also widely there on Twitter and all of you can access it. This 11-page proposal gives different weightages to different criteria from your 10th grade board exam to your 12th grade exams if you have appeared for any, be it offline or online exams. Because see, the 11th and 12th grade you have lesser number of subjects. So there are some students who make this argument that we will be able to score better scores in 12th because of this. So if weightage is given to the national exam, which is the class 10th exam, all of us have appeared for it. Along with which, some weightage is also given to, these different factors from 11th and 12th. I am sure every student will be satisfied with this solution. And if at all there is a student who does not want to, rely on this, we can do exactly what we did with class 10th. We can let them appear for the board exam once the condition is better, because we will have lesser number of students appearing for the exam then. And we will also be able to satisfy most of the students.
Okay, Resham, so let me take this across to Dr. Sudha Acharya. The solution which is being proposed, is it feasible? And more importantly, Dr. Acharya, is it feasible for students across our country, across economic strata?
Yeah, very good evening. I completely agree with the child when she is expressing her apprehension to sit for the exam. We are very much aware that their mental health, physical health and home situation is not conducive for board exam at the present time. But I am of the little different opinion that as the situation is improving, if the positivity rate is coming down and we can control the situation, as he's saying, see, class 10th and 12th are not the same. Class 12th is a defining year when students really, they move ahead in their career path. And class 10th is a common examination consisting of 5 subjects like history, science, English, maths, like that. So after that, the students, they take their selection of subjects or stream as per their competency and skills, thinking that they will choose a particular career path. So 10th class board examination result is based on their SST, science, English, Hindi and maths. And 12th class, of course, they are studying a variety of subjects like sociology, psychology, business studies, accountancy, which they never did in class 10th. So I do not think, if I say technically, there is no parity between class 10 result and class 12 if we bring in parity there. And as I was listening to another child in one more channel, the child was saying that class 12 pre-board examination, if we suppose assess them on the basis of class 12 pre-board examination, see the level of difficulty, the level of examination, some schools have done offline, some schools have done online, and many students, they did not appear. One more thing we should remember also, in class 12, children are mostly career oriented. So they take their board examination very, very seriously. And I completely agree with her that we know many students, they are affected by COVID, their parents are affected, even our teachers are affected. But here I will tell you that in
so there
future,
can be no parity done.
No, but
so
I
you're
will
saying
tell you
that basis of your 10th results, you cannot decide, you cannot extrapolate class 10 results to that of class 12. So you advocate
that is only common subjects, Hindi, science, SST, all integrated. Here the child is studying accountancy, business studies, sociology, like that. But
you advocate physical examinations with social distancing? Dr. Acharya?
See, I am nobody to decide whether exams should take place or not, but only one thing is that
to discuss it efficiently. Could I please be given just a minute to do that?
Please, dear, let me finish my point. So what I wanted to say that there are a lot of ifs and buts, but if the positivity rate as it is coming down, if the country is in a position in July and August as we are extrapolating, and there can be a very different format of examination. See, many students will go for international admission, and we have given them predicted scores also, but those predicted scores need to be corroborated by CBSE scores. In rural areas, many students are there. For them,
just
this
a
is
second,
the last examination.
Dr. Acharya and Resham, just hold on for a second. Let me get in Dr. Jaleel Parkar as well. In the month of July and August, when the government says that we will have enough vaccines, one, of course, not for children, but for adults, and the positivity rate comes down and adequate social distancing is practiced, can such physical exams be held? Dr. Parkar.
See, one has to understand and take into consideration quite a few things. The COVID, which was there last year, which passed away, had all the children at home, nobody going to college or nobody going to school, whether it was primary, secondary, whatever. Of course, it did leave its impact on the children because that's not how life has been for them for the years that they have been going to school. So it has an impact on their mental status, there's no doubt about it. Number two, many of them have lost their near and dear ones. Number three, even the parents themselves, they also have mental illnesses. Many of them either who have recovered from COVID or many of them who have lost their jobs and a difficulty at home where everybody had to stay at home. The financial crunch was also one of the factors. Now, having said that, the second wave, it became worse than a tsunami. And in fact, it did affect a lot of younger generation, which we have seen. My take, nobody to decide as regards to the educational status that should be considered. That's not my prerogative in any way. But because of complacency on our part, because of not keeping social distancing, whatever the reasons there might be, the wave was humongous. Now you have to consider as to whether holding the exams would risk the children and even the population at large, because everybody will be involved as far as exams are concerned. So you have to weigh your pros and cons whether exams would be beneficial or they would not be it primary, secondary, whichever class you want, including the 10th standard as you all have discussed. Because if it has its impact, then the third wave will be something to be fearful about, which we are already apprehensive about. So promoting somebody...
Mrs. Kudesia,
Can I complete, please?
Mrs. Kudesia, is it better to err on the side of caution? Sir, just a second. I want to quickly get in Mrs. Kudesia as well. Is it better to err on the side of caution, considering that the lives of children are at stake?
Yes, I'm not in favor of conducting the examination. And as one of the panelists just mentioned, that positivity rate has come down. Now, here is my doubt. The positivity rate has come down. It is a matter of jubilation, or it has come down because the number of testings have been reduced. That is my point number one. Yes. Point number two, when we talk of the vaccination before the examination, are we going to vaccinate all the children, their families, the teaching staff, the associated staff? Are we equipped to do that? No, we are not. So thirdly, if we talk about, like I'm heading Delhi Public School, Sushant, which is a renowned school. I have the infrastructure completely in place. I can conduct the examination beautifully. I can make things happen here. But what about the rural part of India? How are you going to conduct the examination there? And another point, what have been your
But ma'am,
deliverables?
doesn't the question of what about the rural part of India also apply to the other solutions? The solution of having the test paper from
Yes.
home. How many
Yes.
children in rural
Yes.
part of India have access to online exams? Many of them
Exactly.
share
That
a house or share a room with 5 other family members. How will they give their
Yes.
exams?
Yes, and that is my another question. What were our deliverables in the gone year? How did we teach well, and did we teach enough? Are these children equipped to give the examination? So obviously you cannot compare apple with orange. So those children were deprived of the education. Hence, you don't have any other option than the mass promotion, because obviously you cannot hold back those children because pandemic is not their fault.
Mass
And
promotion.
you cannot let them, yes. And you cannot let them fail
Dr.
also. So
Acharya,
mass
would you consider mass promotion,
is,
and what does that do to
only
the idea of
solution.
merit?
See, I am not in favor of mass promotion. There are students with having a lot of aspiration from this exam. They have their life ahead. So nobody is saying that amongst suppose say third wave or peak is going on, we'll conduct exam. There are a lot of ifs and buts, but if situation permits and if we can, should we be ready for it or not? If we are ready, then we are prepared. We are talking about rural India. Rural India, it was so difficult to reach the last child. So we did a donate a gadget campaign, and we have so many children from economically weaker section, and we could reach out to them. But conducting online exam is not just possible. There is no electricity
Yes,
throughout the
ma'am.
day. So that's why it is
Exactly,
what.
ma'am.
So that
Ma'am,
let me
mentioned,
finish.
okay,
So that's what
okay,
my
please,
point
ma'am.
is, that in rural areas we are not able to reach them for class. So how can we conduct exams? So that's why I was saying so many children are there. For them, this is the last qualifying exam, and later on they will settle down in life, either going for ITIs, for nursing training, for 5-year teacher training, and so many other courses. For them, this mark sheet is very, very important. And students, those who have got high aspiration for their
Resham,
life ahead, we cannot leave them behind. No child should be left behind. So my point
you
is
cannot leave
that
them behind. And the concern also is, Resham, while we empathize with all the children and parents that we are hearing around us, the concern is that this might be an echo chamber, and let's face it, all of us are privileged. There are many others who cannot come on TV and articulate their concerns, and we cannot have our decisions foisted on them. Resham.
Right, ma'am. I think.
So what is the solution that carries everyone along?
Right, ma'am. I think that is a very beautiful question, because we live in India and that is our beauty. We live in a country where everybody is coming from a diverse background, which is why I think one solution will not solve this entire problem for everybody. Because if we think about, conducting offline exams, by the time you will be able to conduct these exams, by the time that would become feasible, students who have applied abroad will not be able to send in their transcripts. They will miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime, which is exactly why we need to make sure that we are giving this option to the students. The proposal that I was just talking about earlier when I was speaking to you, the 11-page proposal, it basically addresses every single issue, making sure that there is a separate section for those people who do not have access to resources. How will exams be conducted for them? There's a separate section for those students who would be applying through entrance exams like IITs and NEETs of the world. There are separate sections for students who are waiting for DU and other such exams, which would probably take into account the board marks. So the most important thing, in my opinion, with every single person, from the ministers to those who are in the education section, every single person should do is make sure that the voices of the students are being heard. Because at the end of the day, we are the people who are bearing the brunt of this entire situation. And at the end of the day, if there has to be a solution, all of us need to be satisfied. Our parents need to be, relieved that yes, everything that is happening will make sure that our solution is secured. We are not missing out because of somebody else's ability to not take decisions or, delay those decisions for 14 to 15 months. Because now, let's be very
Agreed.
honest. We've had 14 to 15
Agreed. There
months
can be no one-size-fits-all solution. which is why a solution, like you said, Resham, that is most equitable and most fair to everyone and factors in all of their economic and life concerns needs to be found out, and we will hopefully have more such conversations and try to see if we can reach towards such a consensus. For the time being, thank you very much, all ladies and Dr. Jaleel Parker, for having joined me. Stay safe.